So I really would love, if I could, to tell my younger self and to tell you what I wish I knew like 10 years ago, what I wish to impart on every young man, young woman about themselves and about how they should approach the dating world. So I came up with a list of 11 things that I wish I could tell my younger self, and I will share with you right now. So number one is to stop choosing people based on your wounds and to instead choose people based on your values. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that we need to stop our worries, our anxieties about loneliness or fear, and stop letting those negative emotions guide our decisions. So many times I let myself fall into situations or situationships, whatever you want to call them, merely because I did not know how to be on my own. I really needed to feel like I was someone's priority, and I felt like I could only get that love, that validation, that self-worth from being in a relationship, from someone, you know, calling me their girlfriend. And that's because I didn't have that in myself. Like, I felt so insecure that I needed to feel like someone's number one. And that was a bad place to date from, because A, I was objectifying the other person, trying so desperately to get my self-worth from another person. That's a lot to put on someone else. And secondly, it meant that I was dating from a place of scarcity and void. It wasn't like I was at a place where I felt good in myself and I wanted to gift that to another person. It was more like I had this hole and I was desperately seeking for it to be filled, not realizing that that shaped hole was actually a God-shaped hole, and it was a shaped hole in me not understanding my own worth and the fact that I was already loved. I'm already loved. It was like I was dating from a place of fantasy. I wasn't grounded in reality, and I wasn't able to see the person for who they are. I would more see them as a means to an end. You know, it was more like, okay, being with this person means I can be a girlfriend, and when I'm a girlfriend, you know I have someone who's always going to be there for me. I've always got a plus one I can go to things with. I've got someone who's always going to consider me, who will come with me to things, and you know, I don't ever need to be alone again. And that was just the wrong way of looking at a relationship, because it was actually all about me. It was completely self-centered and not other-centered, and I wasn't really allowing myself to get to know the other person. So I was dating from a place of insecurity and neediness. Secondly, I would tell myself, please, younger Delphine, don't lower your standards, but raise your self-worth. I know that there's an argument about having a list, right? And I'm not talking about the list of superficial things, but I'm talking about standards which are actually okay to have. It's okay to want to date for marriage, for example. It's okay to want to date someone who's going to love both you and your family. These things are not an unrealistic ask, right? I'm not talking about the checklist. I'm talking about the fundamental values that you want and would love to see in another person. And for a long time, I think I thought I was asking for too much. You know, wanting a really good, faithful Christian man, for example. I was like, well, maybe it's okay if he just has the values. Maybe he doesn't need to be Christian. Or for example, you know, wanting to meet someone who doesn't just tolerate animals, but likes animals. Like, they are a huge part of my life. I have a cat, I have a dog, I love horse riding. A lot of my hobbies involve animals. And then it was like, well, maybe it's okay if they just tolerate them. And I started not to date out of shared values. That wasn't the foundation of the relationships I found myself in when I was younger. I more dated from a place of chemistry and mutual liking and all these kind of things. And then always there was this point where we would have a conversation about a value, and I would realize we were completely unaligned. But by that point, I felt like I was too far in and I didn't want to leave that relationship. And I think it's because I thought those standards are unrealistic or they're too difficult. And that was actually because I didn't have enough confidence in myself, and I was letting myself think there's no good Christian men out there, or you won't be able to find a Christian guy who likes dogs. And you know, all these kind of things are really silly. They're really silly, but I was believing these lies in order to justify being with people who weren't right for me. I convinced myself that those kind of dreams were too much, and I dated from a place where I didn't put faith at the center, and I didn't put certain things that I'm very convicted about morally at the center, and it just meant I ended up with the wrong people. Number 3 is to wait for a person whose actions match their words. As I mentioned, you know, it's really easy for us to promise someone the world, and I certainly definitely had that in some relationships where the guy would really say to me, that he couldn't wait to get married and have children, and this is what we should call them, etc. And it was really unfair because ultimately there were a few scenarios where, for example, this man had actually no intention of getting married or having children. It was very mixed messaging because it was one hand like, we should call our kids this, and what if they look like this and we could do this, and then there was actually no intention to follow through. So I really think it's so important for us to align that with what we're saying has to be aligned with what we're doing, and we can't fall into the trap of that sounds so lovely and I want to believe it. We have to actually see it, and we have to act on those words that we're saying as well. Because of that, I would fall for potential rather than paying attention to patterns and to what actually was in front of me. Number 4 is to not give wife energy to a maybe guy, and to not give wife benefits to a boyfriend. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean that as women, we are nurturing, we're loyal, we have all these parts of ourselves, and we really love to show that. But sometimes we give more than what has been earned by the other person. And I hate this idea that a relationship is a test run or an audition, because then I think it means that we become really performative and we're like, look at the kind of wife I could be, or like, look at the kind of husband I could be. Sleeping over, doing their washing, going on holiday together where you're staying in the same room, having sex before marriage. Like, these things, I think sometimes as women we can think, this is gonna prove my love and it's going to like cement the relationship, and unfortunately it doesn't. You're giving yourself in a way that signifies lifelong commitment without the lifelong commitment, and I think that's a really confusing aspect of our dating culture today, because humans are not cars. We do not need a test run. Some parts of getting married and being in a relationship and discerning that person is a leap of faith, and you do that with God, and you don't test run, because it's almost like saying, God, I don't believe that you made man and woman in this complementary way that will work together. Like, it will work if you both have, united conviction, suitability, passion, and attraction. Number 5 is to heal before you date, and this is similar to what I said earlier, not dating from a place of woundedness, from a place of insecurity and lack, because a lot of our traumas, aren't actually our fault, but they can be our responsibility. We can take accountability for being like, I'm not gonna let this define me, and I'm not gonna make this my story. Because if we don't let God really heal those areas of our lives, we're just going to potentially bring that pain into a relationship, recreate it as well. And sometimes we might even choose people who we can recreate that trauma with. Work on getting to a point where you choose joy, and then, wait to be found glad. My friend told me that phrase and I love it, be found glad, because it just means that I'm just gonna build a life which is so full and so happy and so joyful. And when someone meets me or finds me, or I find them, they're gonna find me glad, they're gonna find me happy and fulfilled. And it's not gonna be me looking for them out of a place of lack. It's gonna be an amazing bonus, an amazing gift, and someone I will be so grateful to God for. The next point is to pray for discernment and not just a relationship. I used to pray, like, God, please bring me my husband, please help me to recognize him, all these things. And now I've changed my prayer. I'm like, God, if it is your will to bring me my husband, please give me the discernment and the wisdom to recognize him, to have my eyes open for him, and also the courage to walk away from anyone who's not right. And I also have added to that, make me worthy of this man that I believe you have planned for me, and ultimately make me the person you created me to be. And that's been a completely different posture for me, because before it was like, just send me a man. Number 7 is I would tell myself, become the woman that God has called you to be. Just in that same prayer, like, help me, God, to be confident in who I am. Help me to find the people, the hobbies, the practices that give me joy. Help me to serve. Help me to learn the skills I need, to will the good of another so that I can sacrificially love them. I can love them in the really good times, but also in the hard times. Give me that character, that virtue. And when you see that, you suddenly don't start being terrified of the time that's passing, because you're like, actually, I'm pouring in the work. I'm doing the work. And imagine if God blesses you with a spouse and children, and that spouse and your children get to meet that version of you who you've worked at, you've healed, you've gotten to a place of peace with. That's really exciting, and that's definitely worth it. Number 8 is to not fall for the world's narrative that you are behind, that it's too late, that you're losing, that you're not prepared. All these kind of things that stop you from feeling you can move forward, that make you feel like you're stuck, that make you feel like you're not hitting the right milestones, you're not growing, you're not adulting properly because you don't have, insert word here, the house, the husband, the wife, the children, etc., etc. And again, that led me to being in a place of scarcity where I was stressing myself out so much. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm nearing this age, and oh my gosh, if this doesn't happen by then, it's just never gonna happen. I realize now that those were such lies from the devil, because, you know, I really felt like God was withholding from me rather than him protecting me, maturing me, setting me apart. And so much of the Bible is about waiting, and yet none of us want to wait, right? None of us want to have that feeling that we're not where we want to be. And it can be really painful. And I think especially for women, you know, we really feel that. Number 9 is that the right man will bring you closer to God, not further. And in that, I mean, I was dating a guy once who actually was jealous of my relationship with God, to the point where I think he was always gonna feel in competition with God for that top spot in my life, you know? And at first I thought it was really sweet. I was like, oh, he just wants to be my priority. He wants to be my number one. And I didn't realize that it actually was causing a rift in my relationship with God, because I was like, how can I show this guy that he means a lot to me? But the right guy will not be jealous of God. He will be so happy that God is at the front and center, and that everything in life pours forth from that relationship. So I wish I would tell myself that, and to not settle for someone who didn't respect my faith and my beliefs, and who didn't want to cultivate and help to grow that and grow his faith alongside me. Number 10 is that your worth is given by God, by the very fact that we are here. And we need to stop questioning our own desirability and challenge this belief that we're unlovable just because one person couldn't love us back, because the wrong person couldn't love us back. That actually has nothing to do with us, and just to do with the compatibility. Because I think when we believe those lies, and when suddenly someone's hurt towards us makes us question our own worth and validity, that's really dangerous. So I just would tell my younger self to know your worth, and don't let that be shaken by anything or anyone. And finally, and obviously this list could be so much longer, but this is just what I really thought of, is not to date in isolation, because that can be really difficult when you're dating without counsel, without community, without being able to share that person with your network and to see their network as well. Dating in a bubble can be really difficult to discern when it's just you and them, and you're not bringing in your communities, because those are the people who know you and love you, and they'll know when you're, you know, a better person around another person, or they'll check you if you're being rude or disrespectful. And I think that that's actually quite healthy, because otherwise, yeah, complacency definitely is not a place you want to be in a relationship. So younger me, ultimately know that God has got you. He has written an amazing story that he wants you to co-author. Don't write it with a shaky hand of fear. Write it confidently with your head held high, knowing that you're loved, and let all your actions in your life, in your dating life, come from that place of confidence and joy and gratitude, so that when the right person comes, you can recognize them, you can really appreciate them, and you can act from a place of abundance. So I hope this has been helpful. I think ultimately all of our life lessons and all of our wisdom and things that we learn and we wish we could tell our younger selves are things that we need to share with our friends, with our family, because that's how we learn. We're social creatures, and we learn from each other. We learn from our own mistakes, as painful as they can be. And sharing them is almost like an act of service, to be like, hey, I'm gonna share this because maybe one of you won't make the same mistakes that I did, and you won't need to feel that same hurt. You won't need to, you know, come to these realizations yourself. You'll just know them. So that is my prayer and wish for you. And of course, please do subscribe to Salt Content, okay? As always, God bless, and I'll see you next time.